a Heroes Welcome podcast. Hello, listeners. Thank you for joining us on the Heroes Welcome podcast, your ultimate guide to understanding the incredible world of mental health. I'm Maria Laquerre-Diego, licensed marriage and family therapist and registered play therapist supervisor. And today I'm here with my co-host,
Liliana. That's a lot of credentialing. So I'm an MFT, RPT, that's all I'm saying. And we're here with the wonderful Lisa. Lisa, how do you want to present yourself to our audience?
Oh my goodness, how do I want to present myself to the audience? Like in the mental health world or like outside the mental health world?
However you want to do it.
Well, from a mental health perspective, yes, I am also LPC RPT-S, but the creator of Synergetic Play Therapy and the president of the Synergetic Play Therapy Institute. But really, the identity that is swirling in front of me is I'm about to be an empty nester. So Lisa Dion, the almost empty nester, is where I'm at.
Which a lot of us can identify with.
Yes.
Thank you for being here. As we were welcoming you, I was like, who doesn't know about you? And I really mean it. From your podcast, Lessons from the Playroom, to Synergetic Play Therapy, to the business of therapy, you have been able to move in different areas, and in all of them are always holding space to teach us something about something, right? So about something, like I just minimized it there, but that's not true. But you understand therapy, understand how to work with our clients. You were the first one, and I'll do it out loud, that I heard talking about the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where we want to go, right? The conversation today will be how challenging it was to bring something new. We knew, but in our play field, the play therapy field, we really didn't knew about it. Mm-hmm. So how was it? How challenging it was for you to bring this topic to light?
So let me just put some context around that. So I started teaching about the nervous system and this idea of regulation in the nervous system back in 2008. And when I was first putting it in my courses, it was like people's heads were exploding. Oh my gosh, this is so novel, right? What I will say about, to answer your question, how hard was it or not? I didn't actually realize how hard it was until after I did it, because when I did it, I was just so excited to share. And so in many ways, my sort of jumping into the new was really done with some rose-colored glasses on.
Sure.
Because I didn't know what would happen if I brought something new in. So I really started teaching the new pieces, and there were other pieces in there too. This whole concept, even a regulation, that regulation doesn't mean calm. The idea that you can be in two states at the same time. I mean, those are things that we're now like, oh yeah, now I get it. I've been saying that since literally 2008. Different ideas about how perception actually drives everything. That's now being talked about, more. So there were a handful of concepts that when I first started out really weren't being talked about, at least a whole lot in the play therapy community. I'll also say that a lot of individuals have thought over the years that synergetic play therapy came out of my studies with interpersonal neurobiology, or came out of the work of Dan Siegel and Alan Shore, and not so. Actually, synergetic play therapy was created and put together, and then as their work started to come out, it was this beautiful left brain language that helped me add to what was already created in synergetic play therapy. So I think that's also helpful when we're talking about something new, because it really did feel new. It didn't feel like I was drawing from an already established creation, if that makes sense. Although I definitely pulled many pieces to create synergetic play therapy. So rose-colored glasses.
Yeah. And it sounds like you took something that you were passionate about and started with that and kind of launched from there. And so maybe it was a passion of yours and not new to you, but then putting it out there kind of for everyone else to see, being the scary part.
Yeah, and we can even back up even more. When I was putting new ideas together, I was really trying them on in the playroom for myself. And then what was happening around me is that people were noticing that something seemed a little different in how I was approaching things. And there were changes that were happening with the kids that seemed different. And so people started to ask, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Well, can you teach us? Well, now that's an interesting piece. Let me now figure out what I'm doing and put it into a teaching kind of a context. And then it really just grew from there. But what I learned pretty quickly, and even more than the nervous system piece, I think one of the I feel is the most important components of synergetic play therapy, but it's also, I think, one of the scariest for a lot of clinicians is the use of self. Mm-hmm. And so here I am talking about the nervous system, talking about the use of self. And it was this sort of new idea, or a revisit actually to old ideas, because I'm not the first person. Carl Rogers talked about it quite a bit. So did Fritz Perls and other Virginia Satir, other beautiful clinicians. But a lot of people didn't like it. And what I mean by a lot of people didn't like it is that it was a threat to some other established theories. And it was a threat to, or a challenge, maybe threat's not the right word, but it seemed to challenge current thought, seemed to challenge current thinking. I think it activated a lot of fear for a lot of individuals. Who is this person? What is she doing? Why is she teaching this? Who does she think she is? And that's when the reality check hit of having a new idea or a new thought and putting it out there is met. If it's new, it's going to be met with resistance, because how could it not be met with resistance? You're saying something that feels different, and different feels scary. And so a lot of the journey with synergetic play therapy, at least early on, was almost having to prove myself and really having to get clear on the messaging and what I'm teaching and why I'm teaching, and holding on to my why, because there was a lot of challenge that came out. And every time since I present something new, I now know that this is part of the process. I'm going to be met with resistance. So it doesn't feel so shocking to my system as it did when it first happened, where I took it really, really personally. Yeah. And now I've learned it's actually not personal. It's that I'm destabilizing some thinking. That's okay. My job is to do it in a way where I stay congruent to who I am, or I stay mindful of how I'm doing it, where I do take others into consideration. But at the end of the day, I'm also not responsible for other people's reactions either. I'm responsible for my own truth and my own voice.
Yeah, I love that.
Like, let it linger there. I love this, right? Like, I love how you are organizing every time that we present something new, a new angle, a new way of thinking. It's not going to be accepted right away what it should be. We are questioning systems. And systems do not like to be questioned because they personalize it. So then it feels like it's a rejection to us versus the idea that we're bringing, or the questioning that we're bringing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think I still kind of get a little shocked, because I'm like, in the field that we're in, I expect much more flexibility and invitation for new ideas. And that is not always the case.
I don't think it's the case across all industries.
I agree. Every time that Maria tells me that, it reminds like, oh, sweetheart. It's
but it is true, because we're fundamentally all in the same sandbox.
Mm-hmm.
And fundamentally, we would like to think that we can all share together. And where I really can resonate with what you're saying is, for me, there's a sadness that pops up sometimes when I see these amazing clinicians that are doing what they love to do, and they've got new thoughts and they've got new insights, or maybe it's not a new insight, but the way they're doing it is differently, or they're presenting it, or they're creating something, or they're making something. And the thing that we all have in common is we're trying to help kids.
Right.
And that part for me is where it does feel a little sad, where it feels like, how do we, or what happened, or what's going on where we are in such scarcity mode, where we don't feel like there's actually enough to go around? Because the reality is there are billions of children on this planet. I can only help a couple. You can only help a couple. You can only help a couple. So how about we all help a couple?
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I do it is going to, be supportive of a certain group, and the way you do it, other will be attracted. And it's like we all need everybody's individual expressions, and we all need everybody's individual thought processes and creativity, because we're just so complex and dynamic. And so that is where I do get a little sad, where there can feel like this. I know there's resistance, and I know that there needs to be resistance and part of a growth process. But the way that we go about the resistance, because there's a difference between curiosity and questioning from a place of curiosity, and a place of questioning out of scarcity, or out of feeling, afraid. Fundamentally, that's what it is, right? We're afraid. We're afraid we're going to lose something. Mm-hmm.
As you're speaking, right? I was like, it's not different than dealing with culture.
Mm-hmm.
We have this idea that I just wrote something in regards to we in the mental field, we talk about culture from one stereotype, and we want everyone to fit in that stereotype. Yet I love what you said. We are so individualistic, so complex, so dynamic, but we want everyone to fit in that stereotype. Mm-hmm. And I think in the mental health field, period, but specifically in the play therapy field, we want everyone to fit a certain, to be in a certain box, and not think outside the box. Yet the theme that I hear in every training that I have been is that to think outside the box. So it's an invitation to think outside the box, but don't be outside the box. You have to fit in this box. Mm-hmm. That's culture, my friend.
Don't go out of the box too much.
Yeah. Like maybe you take, but like come back.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Exactly. Don't go too far.
And I think some questioning, like Lisa, like you said, some questioning and resistance is good. We want to make sure what's being put out to the masses is evidence-based and safe for practices, right? Like we don't want anything out there that's dangerous. But I do feel, as myself putting out some new things in the last couple of years, the resistance does initially feel very personal. It's like, oh, they don't like me. They don't like what I'm doing and my ideas.
Yeah.
How do you get past that?
Yep. So I want to share something that I learned. And I actually learned this in the context of studying history. Okay. So change in history, because, right, that's, as we know, the only constant is change, right? So change and evolution throughout history. And there is a 3-step process that happens, particularly when it is a shift in a paradigm, shift in a big thinking, shift in the way we look at something, shift in a, something really new that's coming in. And the first step is that the work, the idea, whatever it is going to be criticized, right? That's step 1. Step 2, and the language that's used is violently opposed.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
Not just criticized, but
Mhm.
violently opposed,
Mhm.
right? And then the third step, it just becomes self-evident,
Okay. Yeah.
right? So we almost can think of it like uh, equilibrium's trying to set in.
Mhm.
Here comes someone with this new idea. Ah, it's so exciting. And as it's coming in, what about this? What about this? Hold on. Criticism. Wait, which is great because it actually, if the person understands this, they can start to stabilize the idea.
Yeah.
If someone's really thoughtful about this, they'll listen very closely to the criticism. Because the criticism, if we can separate the personal nature, the criticism is what's just, think of it this way, it's not criticism, it's just pointing out the parts that haven't been thought through yet. That's it. That's all that is, right? And we need that. You want to create something sound, you need someone to come in and poke holes in it. Okay, great. So as the holes are getting poked, right, as this is coming in, right, well, now we're actually challenging paradigm. The system is being asked to shift. The system is being asked to move. That is uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable to think differently. It's uncomfortable because it puts us right in the question of, well, who am I? Particularly in mental health, we are doing our best to help other people. And then along comes a thought that says, well, wait a second, have you thought about this way? And then all of a sudden we go, what have I been doing the last 10 years?
Yeah.
Right? Or,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, did I miss something? Or have I been helpful enough? That is really uncomfortable for us, right? Really uncomfortable is because it puts our, how well have we been doing this into question? Who am I as a clinician, right? It puts all that into question. And by the way, a new thought does not devalue anybody's work that they've done up to the point of the new thought.
Yes.
It doesn't devalue it. It just means new thought. It means something moving forward. That's all that means. It doesn't mean it cancels anything, historically, but it feels like that. So then, of course, this new idea, we're now going to be violently opposed because this is uncomfortable. I don't want to change. The system doesn't want to change. Foundational theory doesn't want to change. Original paradigm doesn't want to change. Okay. If there is enough sound thought within the new idea, and if there is enough collective momentum in the new idea, the old paradigm will have no choice but to collapse.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
It literally, it's the way evolution happens, right? Things have to build on itself. If there isn't the new and nothing builds, think of it this way, if we didn't take out a foundation to build a new structure, we'd have a pretty destabilized structure. So at some point, the old thinking has to collapse at some point in order for evolution. And then when that happens, the new thought then starts to become self-evident. So for example, when I teach in all of my classes, in my mind, I try to have components that are comfortable. And then I try to have at least one idea that messes with the current paradigm in thinking. When we get into, so like even as I update my intro to synergetic play therapy courses, I try to bring in what's the new thing that's right there on the horizon that the field hasn't quite stepped into quite yet, but we can see it. It's right down there. And how do I bring it in? Yep, we're gonna get a little uncomfortable, but we're looking. We can see it, it's coming. And then when I get into the certification program, same thing. We go even a little like, no, we're really gonna look at this. Like, what is this thing? And it's uncomfortable. But as a teacher, I will not stop doing that. I don't care how many people tell me that I need to be quiet. I will not stop looking down at the horizon, and I will not stop talking about what is way down there and what is because
Yeah.
it's too important.
Well, and
Go ahead.
there's always constant new things, new research, new technology. And part of me kind of wonders, because I make the assumption that all three of us are avid learners still and avid students. And so I wonder if part of this is a difference in that, where some are very comfortable in the historic box and anything new is too scary. And then having another group that's like, yes, tell me what's coming. How can I integrate it? How is that going to add to, not necessarily like erase what I've done, but add to so that I can keep moving forward.
Totally.
I
And maybe
became
even
aware
some in different areas. Maybe it's not even just this or just this. Maybe it's in this thinking, I'm pretty, rooted and rigid, but maybe in this thinking, I'm more flexible and open. And
Yeah, no, I love that. There's like a couple of analogies that come to mind, right? One is when I started in this field, 'cause I'm the baby here. I was kidding. When I started in this field, I realized how we started talking about new therapists versus seasoned therapists. And what I noticed with the new therapists is that they were eager to belong, to not to be othering, right? So they were like, what do I need to read? What training do I need to take? What do I need to do? And then some of the seasoned, not all seasoned therapists, were like, I know what I know. I don't need to do that. Like we were comfortable with that. We adapted something, we stay with it. Then we have the people who are purists. It's only one way of looking at it, that lens. And then the others that said, but this does not apply to everyone. I need to go and do more. Every time that I think about those things, I think about being in a car and then using GPS, and my husband and I are in the car. My husband will tell the GPS, I know how to get there. You don't tell me what to do. And then the GPS like routing. And then I'm like, go here. And then now my phone tells me, you have a shortcut of 2 minutes if you go this way. And my husband is like, no. I know how to get there. That's how I think about our mental health profession, our field. I wish that all of you guys can see both of these ladies and my analogies, because that's how my brain works to integrate. But that's what I think about our field, which is we have a destination. We all want to help our clients. We are afraid on how to get there because we need to know that perceived challenge of I need to know how to get there and how to do it in this box versus I'm just in the GPS. There's construction, there's bad weather, and I'm going to have to find another way to get there because not everyone needs that box. Damn. That was good.
Yeah. I think along the way, as clinicians, we've become so caught up in doing it right and doing no harm.
Yeah.
That we've really lost our ability to trust ourselves and to trust our instinct and to really allow more of a process to unfold rather than following a script or needing to know. And I find that to be super interesting. Not to say that left brain stuff is also not important. I mean, of course it is. And of course we need to be doing our due diligence. And it's a relationship.
Yeah, I want to say it was 10 years ago, the first time I ran across your stuff, Lisa. And I was well established in my practice by then. But that was the first time I had heard and been given permission to be my full self. My education, my initial jobs were like, absolutely not. You do not exist as a person when you step into that clinic room. And I see that even now taking interns, they have one theory that they are learning and being proficient in. And that is scary, right? To like look at other things. It's overwhelming to look at other things. And so they do kind of become this rigid, this is what I know. This is what I know works. And we know, and it's in our ethics, that if we realize we're not the right person, that they need to be referred out. And why would that be the case if every theory worked for everyone?
Right.
The right person or the right model. This idea of this is what I studied, this is what I'm doing with you. I'm like, no, that's not how it's going to work.
Well, let's even look at that in terms of models and theories. Any model or theory that claims that they have the answer, I question. I wouldn't make that claim about synergetic play therapy. Synergetic play therapy has its strengths, and it also has the places where it's lacking. I'm also well aware that there are components in synergetic play therapy. It won't be me putting them together. In fact, 30 years from now, synergetic play therapy may be the one that may be the paradigm that's needing to be surpassed. I welcome that. Great. If SPT needs to be dismantled to get to then let's dismantle it, right? So any theory that says I have a complete theory. I have the way. I am the only way. I am the right answer. If you don't do it this way, then you're somehow messing up. I caution that. I caution that a lot because I think it takes away the intuition, and it really takes away the pieces that we're talking about, authenticity and the rest.
Well, it continues the rigid paradigm, right? Like this is the only way. And some of those that I've come across are like, they go one step further. And if you don't do this, then you're not being effective. You're not offering the best treatment for your caseload. And like, how dare you?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
But even, and as we're getting closer right to our time, I was thinking, even when they say evidence-based, which I really hate that, because the only thing that I heard when someone tells me evidence-based, being the othering in the room, is that there was some research done. But then I go, well, tell me your research. What was the population that you research? Because do you went to a university? So like how many people actually had access to that research? Tell me, I mean, honestly, I had a friend telling me, what is it that you learned from research? Did you read a research paper and you were like, I'm going to take this and go try it in my playroom? And I was like, never. And she goes, well, where you get your stuff? And I was like, trainings and books. So then why did we put so much emphasis on research, and how come we cannot cite books? And I was like,
makes us feel safe.
Thank you.
It gives us a false sense of safety.
We had this whole conversation about research-based, evidence-based, and how is that just to comply with the system in order to say, I will pay for this, I will approve this. Not client focus, but system focus.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, man. I don't know about you, Maria, but I feel like I just can continue talking about this, right?
Yes.
Which is beautiful. Doing it the way that Lisa did. If any of you have taken trainings with Lisa, Lisa will always end up with, what is the takeaway?
What's the takeaway? What are you taking from this conversation?
Do you want our listeners to take from this conversation? Lisa?
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
I think just going back to the piece around evolution requires new. Authenticity requires new. Can't be authentic if you're not bringing something new and creative to the table. And don't have a rose-colored glasses thinking around it that somehow it's not going to be met with some resistance. And can you move in the direction of it anyway and use the process of the resistance as something that actually can be quite meaningful rather than something to be, I'm not saying don't be afraid because I'm still afraid, but something that feels like it has to put us into a place of collapse or no longer willing to put our new creative idea out there, because that will hurt more. That's what I want to say. Your rejection of yourself in not putting the idea out there or not creating that new thing or not having the conversation or whatever it is, that will hurt worse than any violent opposition that you might have to go through in the journey.
It's gonna be in my shirt now.
I guarantee it will hurt worse.
Oh, I love it. Maria, what's one takeaway today?
It's been really helpful for me to hear it's going to feel personal. The resistance is coming. And the reframe of that can actually be really helpful in my continuing forward. Because as I feel like I'm still very new in putting out new ideas, I don't have a lot of, I don't have a long history of doing that. I'm very much in this, ooh, they don't like me. So being able to hear is like, yeah, that's a normal part of the process. You can kind of let that go, and keep going.
Keep going.
Oh, I love that.
And take notes. All the things that you hear, take notes on it, and then address it in the new thing you're creating. Use it as feedback.
Yes, love that. I stopped using the word belonging, and now I'm using the word othering. Because I'm othering, I love the validation when you said uncomfortable to think it's uncomfortable to think differently. I knew that from the beginning. I just didn't have word from it. So because I see things differently, I think differently. It's uncomfortable for others to be in a space with me because of it.
Well, they're just missing out. They're just missing out.
Come on.
Well, can I go one just like real quick, just so that we can even humanize this even more, that it's not personal on either end.
Yeah.
That the individual that is scared has a part. It's not the totality of them either.
Yeah.
Right? It's just a part where their identity or their sense of their place in the world or their sense of the construct of how they view the world or how they think things exist or don't exist. It's that part.
Yeah.
Right? That part all of a sudden is afraid because that part doesn't know who they would be if all of a sudden they had to adopt different thinking. But it's not the totality of the person, right? And then the part of us that gets scared, it's not the totality of us that's scared either. It's just a part in us that also doesn't know who we would be if we couldn't put this idea out into the world.
Yeah.
Right? So when we can boil it down to go to, it's our sense of self and how we move through the world that's under question when new ideas and new thoughts get challenged.
Oh, I love that you went back to the beginning. Look at you. What a way of closing it.
It's like she's done podcasts before. Or something.
Oh.
Thank you again, Lisa, for
Thank
being
you
here. For
both so
everyone who
much.
is listening to us, I will make sure that you have all the different ways that you can contact Lisa, from her podcast to her institute, to her business of therapy, which I keep promoting. I think I should get a cut for how much I promoted. But I will put all those links so that all of you have a different way of connecting. And if you are interested, which you should, I use the word should, you would like, they will all the links will be there in order for you to reach out to Lisa. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you both so much.
Yeah, till next time, guys. Stay playful.
I always say bye as if they're gonna see us.